and everybody needs to think long-term. And because long-term, I'm quite confident that this is going to be a multi-million-dollar per coin asset. I think gold is going to do incredibly well in the monetary debasement that's coming, but I think Bitcoin is going to do much better than that. And so as an investment manager, my job is to earn the top risk-adjusted return for my clients. And I view Bitcoin as a better risk-adjusted return than gold. Okay, if you're going to debase my currency, I'm going to buy a currency that by definition cannot be debased above and beyond the programmatic formula.
Lawrence Lepard begins by acknowledging the impressive potential of gold amidst the impending monetary debasement, but swiftly shifts focus to Bitcoin, which he views as a superior investment. Lepard emphasizes that his primary responsibility as an investment manager is to secure the best risk-adjusted returns for his clients. Given the current financial climate, he believes Bitcoin offers a better risk-adjusted return compared to gold. Lepard is confident in Bitcoin's long-term potential, predicting it will eventually reach multi-million-dollar valuations per coin. He advises investors to adopt a long-term perspective and not be deterred by short-term price swings. Those who have held Bitcoin for over 4 years have generally seen substantial gains, reinforcing the importance of patience and conviction in the asset's future. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
I'm trending away towards gold just because, let me make a couple things straight. I think gold is going to do incredibly well in the monetary debasement that's coming, but I think Bitcoin is going to do much better than that. And so as an investment manager, my job is to earn the top risk-adjusted return for my clients. And I view Bitcoin as a better risk-adjusted return than gold this far into the game. And now having a lot of the risks in my mind in Bitcoin gone away. I mean, perfect example, one of the biggest risks I think in Bitcoin until the ETFs, was TradFi looked at it, or most investment pools looked at it and said, how can we invest, and Saylor made this point, how can we invest in something that we think the government might shut down? And, when the government approved the ETFs, they more or less gave the green light, say, well, we're not going to shut it down, at least not now. There might come a time when, they're in distress and they decide they want to shut it down. That's a whole different discussion, but that's a few years out. And so, I think with the endorsement of the ETFs and the recognition that those funds are now going to flow into it, this is no longer just a niche form of sound money. This is mainstream sound money, and it can really, in a meaningful way, compete with gold. And so, as a result of that, and I think it will beat gold over time. But that doesn't mean nominally, I don't think gold will ever go down. Gold in fiat terms will continue to go up, just not as quickly as Bitcoin. And so one of the things that happens, there was a time probably 6 months ago where I was personally 50-50 gold and gold-related things in my fund that are gold stocks and so forth, and Bitcoin. And that's probably now, I haven't done the math recently, but it's probably like 60-40 or 65-35, partly just because the Bitcoin went up.
Yeah.
I didn't buy any more Bitcoin, I didn't buy any more gold. Actually, I did buy some more Bitcoin, but not a lot. But when the price of Bitcoin goes up as a percentage of your asset holdings, it becomes a larger percentage. So, I've not completely abandoned gold, and I think gold is very appropriate for people who want a sound money alternative with lower volatility. And that some people need that, right? You can't, 70, 80, 90-year-olds or, whatever, older investors can't comfortably be putting huge pieces of their net worth into Bitcoin, knowing that there are times when it has 50 to 70% drawdowns. It's irresponsible. They can certainly put in 10, 20, 30, 40%. And so if you want a sound money, asset that can't be printed by the government, that has never really gone down more than 20% in a given year, gold represents a solid choice for some people. We're looking at this and listening to this, that they take the time to really study Bitcoin and understand it at a deep level. Because, one of the things, we all try and orange pill people, and sometimes I think we forget when we're orange pilling them to help them to understand how volatile it can be. Mm-hmm. As a perfect example is, if you were orange pilling people a couple of years ago, and when it was in the 50s and 60s, and then it dropped to 15. I had some friends who, when it dropped to 15, they thought they, made a mistake and they sold it. and that was the wrong thing to do. And I think people need to look at the history of the asset, understand that it's higher highs, higher lows, but there are big drawdowns, and so you don't want to use a lot of leverage with this asset because of these drawdowns, and you want to in general aim to more dollar cost average as opposed to plop buy, and so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you need to sell your Bitcoin when the price of Bitcoin is on a drawdown. Because I think everybody who's been in Bitcoin for more than 4 years, generally speaking, you gain purchasing power. Yeah. But sometimes, in that cycle, you would lose purchasing power if you bought it and a year later it had fallen. So I would just caution everybody to understand the nature of the asset and to think to understand it deeply enough such that if there is a drawdown, you won't be tempted to sell, because in fact what you should be doing is buying that drawdown, not selling it. I think the volatility is becoming less over time. There's some evidence of that. But having said that, I think everybody needs to be prepared to deal with the volatility, and everybody needs to think long term. And because long term, I'm quite confident that this is going to be a multi-million-dollar per coin asset. And so if you're buying it at 72 today, you're feeling. I mean, it feels like you're paying too much. But I one of the great stories from Madeira. Somebody told me they knew Max pretty well. I guess when Max was buying his first coins, he paid, this is Max Kaiser, he was paying 50 cents. And he felt like he'd overpaid because Trace Meyer, who's a true OG, was buying his at 30 cents. So, I mean, pretty much everybody who's in Bitcoin feels like they're too late and they're overpaying until about 5 or 10 years go by. And then you're thinking, and people are going to be saying, what do you mean? Hang on, you have one whole coin? What are you talking about? That's
or you bought Bitcoin under 100K? Wow, yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, I bought my first ones at $300. Not enough, obviously. That's the other feeling that's the feeling everybody in the space has too. I wish I'd bought more. Well, we all do. That's just the nature of it. But buy what you can because it's a superior savings technology, and then sit back and go live your life and do things you enjoy, knowing that your money is not being debased, which is a very comforting feeling, right? We live in a financial fantasy world, really, that these people have kind of constructed. But there are some free markets. Probably Bitcoin is the freest of all the markets in terms of lack of manipulation. And guess what? They get it. I mean, Bitcoiners get it, and people are getting it, and they're saying, okay, if you're going to debase my currency, I'm going to buy a currency that by definition cannot be debased above and beyond the programmatic formula. So. And this is why Bitcoin's at new all-time highs, and I expect it's going to go much higher. So.
Bitcoin's decentralized nature and resistance to manipulation make it one of the freest markets, according to Lepard. As governments continue to debase their currencies, more people are turning to Bitcoin as a reliable store of value. This growing recognition is driving Bitcoin towards new all-time highs, and Lepard expects this trend to continue. Lepard notes that politicians are beginning to recognize the significance of the Bitcoin community as a voting bloc. As Bitcoin adoption increases, political figures are less likely to oppose it. Even former skeptics like Donald Trump are changing their stance, driven by political pragmatism and the growing influence of Bitcoin proponents.
It's interesting to me, like the Trump. I mean, Vivek must have gotten to Trump a little bit, right? Because he no longer hates Bitcoin. It's not a scam or a fraud anymore. The other thing I think is going on is it's becoming a big enough of a voting bloc that who wants to piss us all off, right? I mean, politicians are nothing if not self-interested and worried about votes. And now that you've got an ETF, you've got a lot more people in the country who own some. And so, if you're a politician, you start saying, "Hey, this Bitcoin thing's bad, et cetera, et cetera." Well, shoot, maybe I'm not going to vote for you. So I think that's all it is with Trump, in my opinion. I don't think he understands what it is. I think it's just pure calculated self-interest on his part. Biden did something recently that I'm pretty sure it's Warren, not Biden, but it just annoys the shit out of me, this whole notion that they're going to try and tax the miners 30% on their energy consumption. I mean, that would just kill the mining. Right. I don't think it'll ever get through, and it would just kill the Bitcoin mining industry in the United States.
It's going to send it
would all go
elsewhere,
overseas instantly. Yeah, I mean, tons of jobs and economic activity and et cetera would all be lost. I think it's a non-starter. I don't think there's any way they'll get that through. Yeah. But look, it strikes me that over time, the politics are going to reflect the on the ground conditions, and the on the ground conditions are going to be Bitcoiners are doing well, and Bitcoiners are a big voting bloc, and Bitcoiners are going to be wealthy when these coins are worth $1 million a coin. And, I could easily see, I have this sense that Saylor kind of sees himself as a really unique individual with a higher purpose. I think he's going to be a huge historical figure. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him run for president in 8 years or 12 years. And I also think he's probably going to be the richest man in the world. And knowing what I know about him, I actually think that would be an incredibly good thing for the United States, because I think he's a very strategic thinker, and I actually think he's a kind and generous human being who would actually do a pretty good job as the president of this country, and maybe restructuring, kind of the broken politics that we have. I mean, we clearly need a massive political restructuring. We need term limits. We need money out of politics. We need rank order voting. There are a ton of solutions. I mean, the founding fathers had a great idea, and the politicians have managed to kind of stray quite away from that idea. We need to get back to the basics. Well, property is taxed, but it's generally when it's physical property, and it's real estate taxes, and it's the local authorities that want, that provide services for the property that justify the taxation. They haven't gotten to the point where they tax, investment property until such time as it's a realized gain. And that would be a big bridge to cross, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they'll be looking, I remember there was some talk. I mean, Bernie Sanders and others were talking about trying to tax, billionaires just on unrealized gains or on their net wealth. And, look, a political system which is failing, which needs money, is going to, they're going to flail around and try and get money wherever they can. And so I think it's certainly one of the risks with Bitcoin. I will say one thing. I respect Michael a lot, and I think he's right that it is property. But it actually could, over time, it could become more than that. I'm not sure if he believes this or not, but I actually believe it will ultimately become the base layer of money, because it will be a form of money that's the characteristics of which are so superior to the alternative, which is the dollar. The dollar will fade into existence, and we'll have sats will be the new basis of the monetary system. But admittedly, that could be many, many years out, and I might be getting ahead of myself.
Lepard criticizes recent proposals to tax Bitcoin miners, arguing that such measures would drive the industry overseas and harm local economies. He believes that, over time, political decisions will reflect the on-the-ground reality of Bitcoin's success. Bitcoiners are poised to become a wealthy and influential demographic, further solidifying Bitcoin's place in the financial system. Lepard envisions a future where Bitcoin becomes the base layer of money, surpassing the dollar in its role as the primary monetary standard. While this transition may take many years, he is confident that Bitcoin's superior characteristics will eventually make it the foundation of the global financial system. Please like and subscribe my channel.